Hey, what's up, folks? Welcome back to another edition of Football Theory. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers. Pleased to be joined by the coach. Y'all know who he is. What's going on, Coach Shipley? How you doing, brother?
Hey, doing good. Enjoying this nice spring weather we got going.
Yeah, no doubt. And I didn't even mention that the genetics are pretty damn good too. He's got he's got some lifetime Longhorns also that in his genetic gene pool that have been pretty impressive on the 40 acres. Jordan and Jackson Shipley, in case you don't know. So in addition to all of his accomplishments, his kids are also very accomplished as well. So hey, kudos to you, Coach. Kudos. If you got any Shipleys y'all got out there that are pretty athletic, just send them on to Texas. I know y'all got a bunch of them out there, man. Just send them over to Texas. We'll take any Shipley. Shipleys, Ichos, McCoys. You get into them legacies like that, we all good. We'll take them all day, every day. No question. How you doing, though, Coach? You doing all right?
Yeah, everything's good. Everything's great.
That's good, Coach. I would be remiss if I did not mention the other project that Coach and I have going on that we are really excited about, the winning drive. Coach calls it the championship drive. It is Coach, myself, and CJ Vogel. Great. It's on Mondays and Thursdays right now. We go from about 4:15 to about 5:30. You know, if it gets crazy, it gets popping, we may go a little bit beyond that, but we just talking ball, having a really, really good time. So you want to tune in for that too. But Coach, I mean, we obviously had a lot going on now. It's Texas spring football. It is upon us. So if there's anything that, that you want to discuss spring football wise, you just throw it out there. We'll get into it. But I got a couple of topics that I want to get your thoughts about. I was talking to an NFL scout, and there's something that we discussed about Quinn Ewers that I want to get your thoughts about too. It's becoming a popular, trendy term for NFL scouting and evaluation of quarterbacks. I want to get your thoughts about it. And Sark had his media availability, the post-practice press conference, where he talked about a lot of different things. But one comment in particular really raised my eyebrows. It really got me going, because it's something that I've talked about for a long time. One of my football theories that I've thrown out there for a long time. And I believe Sark now is considering it in his roster construction. So we'll discuss that too on Football Theory. Before we get started, we have to, and we're proud to and happy to thank our wonderful sponsor, Laura Baker. Football Theory is brought to you by accomplished Austin realtor Laura Baker. Laura and the Andy Allen team at Keller Williams can handle all of your real estate needs in the Austin area. Laura is not only a diehard Longhorn fan, but a longtime Austin real estate expert. So give her a shout today if you have any questions, concerns, or any business here in Austin when it comes to real estate. 512-784-0505. That's 512-784-0505. All right. Quinn Ewers he's got some things he's got to improve on before he can be projected to be a number one quarterback taken in the draft, but he's definitely got the physical tools. There's no doubt about that. He's got to work on the deep ball. We know that. Apparently the deep ball looked really good in the first practice of spring ball, which, Coach, we overreact to everything. The durability you talked about, he's got to play an entire season without getting hurt. NFL scouts want to see that. Something else that NFL scouts want to see, and they've been bringing this up a lot, it's a new term, and I guarantee it'll become a stat sooner rather than later, is sack avoidance. And if it was a stat, Patrick Mahomes would lead the NFL in it. And if it was a stat, truly, Michael Penix might have led college football in it. He had, and you remember that, Coach, watching them, even against Texas. Ask Byron Murphy. I believe it was Ethan Burke that had a clean shot at him one time. And he just has these very subtle movements in the pocket, very subtle to maneuver and create enough space for himself to be able to make an accurate throw down the field. And he doesn't see the pressure. He feels it. He's still keeping his eyes downfield, and he feels it. And I think that is something that Quinn's going to have to work on. I guarantee you, when Quinn's coming out, there's going to be a scout, and they're going to start bringing up the term sack avoidance with him, and if he's good or bad at it. And what the analytics have shown, Coach, is that with some quarterback, it came up with Justin Fields recently, because he has the highest sack rate in NFL history, or one of the highest sack rates in NFL history. And they talked about in college, he had a 23.6% sack rate. Sack to pressure rate, or pressure to sack rate, if you will. And in the NFL, it is a 23.2 pressure to sack rate. So it is something that they believe translates. Patrick Mahomes in the NFL, 11.3 sack pressure to sack rate, and against in the NFL. In college, it was 11.4. So 11.3 in the NFL, 11.4 in college. They believe it. These things translate. Caleb Williams, they're looking at his sack rate now, pressure to sack rate, and trying to figure out, okay, is it going to translate to the NFL or not? And if that is the theory, that it just is, that's something that actually does translate, your pressure to sack rate in college could end up being the very same or similar to your pressure to sack rate in the NFL. Michael Penix Jr., 9.4. So he is that's considered elite pressure to sack rate. Quinn Ewers is around 30%, according to Sports Info Solutions, which is really high. So my point is this: I would like, and he does have a tendency to look and stare down pressure instead of keeping his eyes down, feeling the pressure as a quarterback. And I think that's going to be one of the things now I'm adding to the list for him to work on: sack avoidance as a quarterback. I think it's something he ain't got to be elite at it. I'm not asking him to be Patrick Mahomes or Michael Penix, but he needs to be better at it, maneuvering in the pocket, eyes downfield, feeling pressure, so that he can still make some of those throws.
Well, again, it goes back to that DKR term. It's a factor that is really hard to put words to, that presence back there, that it factor. And, when you can tell when a quarterback doesn't have a lot of confidence in his offensive line, because he'll start bailing out quick, and I don't see Quinn doing that. And I think that's good, although sometimes he may stay in there a little bit longer than he should. He's athletic. He's not Penix athleticism, but he is athletic enough. I think there are some ways that he can improve on that statistic. But I agree with you 100%. And that's what Penix does so well. His eyes are down the field, and somehow I've worked for coaches that used to call it, a low beam and a high beam. You got your high beams on, but you can still. It's kind of like we have an innate ability. Well, horses have an innate ability too. When they're running, they don't have to look at a hole to see it. They glance at it, they know where it is, and they can, we're the same way. We don't have to look at the ground the whole time. There may be rocks and stickers and curbs.
That's true.
We don't have to be looking. We can see it. We're not looking at it, but we can see it, And to me, it's the same way with the quarterback. You can see it, you can feel it. But with enough film work and enough pressure work in practice, avoiding the sack in practice, I think you can fine tune it. And I kind of think that's where he's at.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I love what it's basically it's your peripheral vision, right? That's your periphery there. You can see it out. Coach Aquino, that's crazy. Coach Aquino would always talk about that. He'd say, hey, man, you can't always be able to see. You're going to be in direct line of vision. Sometimes you're going to be you have to triangulate. I got to watch the quarterback with the 3-step, but I need to be able to feel. And when he talked about feel, he was talking about periphery vision. Feel that number one receiver. You got to be able to feel him a little bit. And if he starts closing that cushion on you while you're looking at that quarterback and zone coverage there, then you got to be either ready to snap your eyes back, or you got to have that innate sense to be able to feel that guy and how quickly he's closing that cushioning on you. So interesting you bring it up, because Coach Aquino would talk about that too. And it's an eerie, weird thing. But when it happens, you know it as an athlete. You go, oh yeah, I did. I felt it. And you see it in the NFL all the time with quarterbacks. They'll have their back turned to a guy that's rushing them. You see it with Penix, and there's no way they have to ask downfield. So there's no way they see him directly, but they do feel him, and feel him is like that peripheral vision, and you can just kind of make those subtle movements. It's great athletes, man. Being great athletes is what it is. Yeah. And that's what we're asking Quinn to do. Be a better athlete in those situations. I think he's got that in him too. All right, Coach, but just one more subject I want to get into here in football theory, because I can pick your brain all day about this kind of stuff. But Sark, in his post-practice media availability, he had a lot of interesting comments, but one of the things I thought that was really that really stood out to me in his comments, he talked about the versatility of the team. So I'll just read the quote here, because originally they were asking him about the versatility of ways to win. Like last year, you won with a defensive goal line stand. You won, with a clutch conversion. On offense, you won a game that way. You won a game by, choking Bama out and choking the clock out with the run game late in the fourth quarter. They just won in a lot of variety of ways. They didn't win in just one way. They blew teams out. They just blew some teams right out of the water. They were asking about that, but then he branched off after being asked about that during the same response, and he started talking about the literal versatility of the team, like his players and how versatile they are. And here's that quote. He says, I will say just first glimpse offensively, we've got some really versatile players offensively, and from a receiver standpoint, we were moving guys from outside to inside, playing them in the slot, playing them outside. We moved our runners around probably more today than we have a first practice of spring ball, and trying to play to their strengths as well. And I think that helps when you've got really experienced quarterbacks who really understand the offense, and he can manage some of that stuff with the line of scrimmage. So he's talking about how versatile the personnel are. He said, man, we're moving these guys around more than we ever have this early on in the offseason in spring practice. One of my football theories is that positionless football is it's going to be the future of football. More and more, we're getting to more hybrid players, guys who are versatile defenders, versatile players that you can move around the chessboard, engineer matchups, manipulate matchup advantages is what you're trying to do. And Sark, by the way, does a lot of this on offense. And that's why he recruits running backs or brings in running backs that are great in the passing game as receivers, because he says the most underrated most underrated factor in the passing game are running backs in the passing game. He's on the record for saying that. So all of his running backs can be receivers, and not just receivers in the short passing game. He's got Jaden Blue running wheel routes downfield, taking vertical shots with those guys. You go look at a guy like Bijan last year and the way he used Bijan all around the chessboard. He wants receivers that can play inside, that can also play outside, right? He says he teaches all the wide receivers every position. But I think now they're going that route on defense too, Coach. You go look at it. There are reports that Jahdae Barron is working corner, star, and safety. There are reports that they're going to continue to move Anthony Hill around in certain situations, right? Have him rushing off the edge if they want to, have him moving around a little bit, so have some versatility. I love the way they use Ethan Burke. I think they use Ethan Burke in that way too. They move him around a little bit. Sometimes he's up in the 2 points, sometimes he's down to 3 point. But even the DBs that they've recently brought in, Makuba that they brought in, that's a guy that can play any position in secondary. Dabo Swinney said that, and Sark called him versatile. He called Kobe Black a three-position player. He called Jordan Johnson-Rubel position flex. He said Santana Wilson has versatility. He's a versatile athlete. He said that all of his DBs that he recruited have the ability to play coverage and play man coverage, whether they end up at star, safety, or corner. I don't think it's a coincidence that he's mentioning versatile and versatility more, that he brings it up offensively now, that he's bringing it up defensively now. I think this is now one of their main tent poles in their talent acquisition philosophy. I think they want more versatile players because versatility offers you solutions. Rigidity, that often presents problems because you got too many rules you have to follow. But when you have versatility, you create depth, but also you have a lot of guys you can move around the chessboard and present problems to the opposing side of the ball. You are a coach, so was versatility, how much of an advantage can it be offensively and defensively? Do you believe this is something Texas is moving toward more of, having more versatile athletes on both sides of the ball?
There's no doubt that they are. And the key in anybody that's going to be a versatile player, the key is always they have the same common denominator. It's athleticism.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it's speed, but it's usually athleticism. I remember, you may be too young to remember, a running back for the Cowboys named Preston Pearson. Preston Pearson was a guy, late 12th round pick. He was a very versatile athlete, and they wound up putting him in the backfield on passing downs. He was a passing game running back. He was good at protection, but he was great at catching the ball out of the backfield. That's the first time I remember it. Ironically, the first time I remember H-back was also with the Cowboys, Jay Novacek.
Yeah.
Was a tight end that they started flexing and started splitting out. And, man, you just become so much more versatile, when you have athletes like that. And when you look at the athleticism we're recruiting, tons of it starts with the speed and the quickness, of those type of guys that can become versatile players, whether it's running back, receiver, returning punts, returning kicks, running reverses, all that stuff. I love the athleticism that we're getting on this team, which obviously, as we've already mentioned, presents itself to having players that are multiple position players.
Yep.
And then I think you always also have to look at the scheme. And I know there was a movement about, I don't know, maybe seems like 15 years ago. Time goes by so fast. 15, 20 years ago, where everything was so wordy.
Yes.
I mean, everything was so wordy, and it still is in the NFL. I don't know if you ever heard of those quarterbacks go through one of their
John Gruden used to do it. Remember John Gruden would do it with people?
Yeah. And it's like, are you kidding me? Well, so in college, coaches have become friendlier with offenses and probably defenses too. There's only so much you can do defensively, but offensively into user-friendly terms, user-friendly schemes, the plug and play type guys, where it's not so hard because I don't know how you do it with such long terminology for one play unless you just memorize it, and you have to know okay, well, there's one word in those 30 words he said that applies to me. No, I'm not. I'm at the slot now. I'm not at X. So which one, but now a lot of times people they'll just tag terms, I know it's what Art Browse used to do when he was at Stephenville. He'd have a play and he'd call it Mikey Special. He'd drop a play for Mikey, it's a reverse pass to Mikey. Got a big arm. Yeah. And so he'd just go, right, Mikey Special. Well, guess what happens when he goes to Baylor? They're still running Mikey Special, and that's what they're calling it, Mikey Special. So he obviously had a lot of success offensively at the college level with production, and he kept it simple. It looked like he was doing tons of stuff, but he just named that. And so you have to understand the concept, the route concept, and what each position's job is in that concept, because and a large percentage of the people running routes on a all-out pass play, they're just diversions. I mean, they're just trying to get somebody to open up an area where a guy can come up underneath and get in or whatever, So you have to understand those concepts. And once you can teach it from that standpoint, this is the concept. This is what we're trying to do in this. We used to have a route we ran all the time to a two-receiver side that was called scissors. The inside receiver, he's basically going to run a corner. All right, you're trying to get the safety. The outside guy is going to be a little wider. He's coming up underneath on a vertical post, and so he doesn't want to go all the way across to the backside safety. So he wants to kind of get vertical in that post. Once that safety's gone, then you kind of have a thing that looks like a scissors. So we call it scissors, just things like that. Just understanding that terminology, understanding what the object of each play is and how it all fits together, so you can plug and play great athletes with a lot of athleticism. And man, it frees you up as a play caller so much, because every time this guy goes in at this position,
makes you predictable.
Now you don't know. You don't know what's coming, because you're moving guys all over the field, and I'm sure, can attest to the fact that drives you crazy, man, because you used to be able to pick off teams with the formation, their splits, their stance, all that stuff. Now it's out the book.
That's exactly right. Yeah, that's what I love. I mean, that's from the defender's standpoint, I hate about it, but from an offensive standpoint, I mean, having guys you can move around the chessboard, you essentially will violate defense's rules. Because defense are built on rules. There are certain rules that essentially bind the structural integrity of a defense. Positionless football on the offensive side of the ball can violate those rules and break those rules, which can completely collapse the defense because they're built on, hey, this player's in the backfield, he's being defended by this guy. When this player is here in this position, he's going to be defended by this player. But when you start moving guys around the chessboard, you can make life hell on a defensive coordinator. That's a good point there, Coach. And just to end it here, I will say this. The Denver Broncos, they recently signed Brandon Jones and also Lil Jordan Humphrey and Malcolm Roach. They now have 5 Longhorns on the Denver Broncos. And this is what kind of sparked this conversation to me initially. I think Sean Payton is also a fan of versatile players. We know that, right? Go look at the team that he had there with the Saints. I mean, Longhorn fans know very well some of the weapons that he had there, but he's a guy that liked versatile weapons. Where you're talking about an Alvin Kamara, he have guys who can move around. Jimmy Graham, he moved around a lot as a tight end, but as a guy that he once complained. I think he had an actual complaint that he filed against the NFL because he wanted to be considered a receiver because he had the stats of a receiver. And he said, I was never lined up in line as a tight end. I was always in the slot or always out wide. Anyway, the NFL denied his complaint. But either way, it shows you Sean Payton, he likes guys he can move around, right? Taysom Hill.
Taysom Hill. Yeah, we know all.
Yeah, exactly, right? But think about the guys he brought in, Coach. Malcolm Roach. You remember Malcolm Roach?
You bet.
Didn't Malcolm Roach play every position on the front 7?
Yeah,
played DN, D tackle, played outside linebacker, played inside linebacker. Remember Lil Jordan Humphrey? Lil Jordan Humphrey played that flex tight end spot. They have him at wide receiver. Is a guy that played that at one time I had him at Wildcat, running some Wildcat with him, coming out of high school.
Well, he was quarterback. Yeah, he was
Yeah. So another versatile guy. Brandon Jones played nickel and played safety at Texas. So did PJ Locke, played nickel and safety, came in as a corner. I think Sean Payton is a guy that likes just versatile athletes, versatile football players, period, offensively and defensively. And I think Sark is also trending in that direction too, where he wants more versatility. So that's what kind of inspired it. So shout out to the Denver Longhorns, basically. You got a lot of them up there.
Yeah, and it's a good bang for your buck. You know, because you don't have to go get, here's my speed guy. Okay, here's my possession guy. Here's my go-to guy on third down. He ain't going to beat anybody deep, but he's dang sure going to get open and catch the ball. If you can get all that rolled into one, you're saving money.
Yeah, great point. Now, that is another good point, too, especially in the NFL when you got a salary cap. There, no doubt. All right, before we get out of here, let's thank our sponsor one more time. Football Theory brought to you by accomplished Austin realtor Laura Baker. Laura and the Andy Allen team at Keller Williams can handle all of your real estate needs in the Austin area. Laura is not only a diehard Longhorn fan, but a longtime Austin real estate expert. So give her a shout today at 512-784-0505. That's 512-784-0505. Thank you to Laura Baker. We appreciate her support. And thank you, Coach. We appreciate the knowledge each and every time, man. I leave here a smarter football fan and football theorist because of you. Also, I want to remind everybody one more time, Mondays and Thursdays, Coach CJ Vogel and myself will be doing the winning drive. Coach calls it the championship drive. I can't agree more. But we do it from 4:15 to about 4:30. It's a good time. We're talking ball, especially during spring football. We're having a lot of fun with that. So reminding everybody about that. But until next time, for Coach and for Laura Baker and for the On Texas Football family, hook 'em.